Hey, this is Derek W41, and recently I made a sewing research project and I would like to talk about that. So basically the interviews were set up where I went in with a list of questions. And I also had some follow-up questions planned out because I knew what they were going to say on a few of the questions. Obviously some of them I didn't, so I had to go along with the flow of conversation and just get some information in that way. But other than that, that's about it. And during the interview, I made sure it was in a quiet place so that they would be calm. Now, my grandmother, however, wasn't too pleased with the idea of being on a video camera like I am right now. And basically, I had to bring my little sister in the room so that she would be calm during the interview. Now, my mother didn't have the same issue, so she was just interviewed by herself. Okay, so I set out to answer the question of if sewing has changed over time. So basically what I found was three different sub-questions that answered this one. Now the first one was how had its methods changed over time. Now the results for this one were kind of inconclusive because it was different than expected. Basically, my mother ended up being the one using the needle and the thread, and my grandmother was the one that used the sewing machine. Now this was based off my mother having a sewing machine that was very dysfunctional. So basically she didn't like it at all and didn't learn how to use it and learned how to use a needle and thread out of frustration. And then my grandmother upgraded over time to the sewing machine because she found it to be more useful. Now the next sub-question was how have the products changed over time? Now I found that my grandmother used it for clothing and for more useful items around the house. Nothing really decorative. But then my mother, she used it almost purely for decorative means and sometimes for mending, but mainly for decorative stuff. Now, furthermore, my third question was how society's view of sewing had changed over time. Now, basically, when my grandmother was sewing, it was just everyone would gather around and it would be a party when they would sew, basically. It was economic based, but they would all join together, so it would be entertainment, so that it would take their mind off the economic point of it. It would be less of a task and more of like a celebration kind of thing. And then my mother, she had it quite differently, in which it was for entertainment. But for some reason, it was no longer a group thing. It was for entertainment, but personal entertainment. Alright, so my next research question was if sewing was a dying art or not. Now, basically my mother just said it was over and it was probably done because in today's world it's just too busy. People don't have time to sew. They can just go to the store and buy new clothes and get along fine with that. Now my grandmother, however, she was very optimistic about the future of it, and she even went out to buy sewing materials whenever I offered to interview her for this. Although she was so optimistic about it, her interview was not really reflective of that because she hadn't sewn within the past 10 years. She'd even given it up for quilting, and she also said that it's easier just to go to the store and buy the clothes, which is probably what most people are thinking these days. So the future of sewing isn't looking too bright because it's just so much easier to go to the store and purchase stuff than it is to make it.